game against decks that are trying to go off through spells. 4 main deck copies of Thalia, Guardian of Threeben, but the spells are incidental to Elves going off, and mana in that respect is almost never the bottleneck. So a lot of Jacob's anti-combo slots aren't that effective against Elves. Now he still has some spell removal. He can Stoneforge for Umezawa's Jitte. He has other plans, but his primary way of beating combo decks is not going to be very effective in this matchup.
Yeah, he's generally trying to hit. Probably his way of sealing out the game will be with the help of Umezawa's Jitte. He plays 2 Stoneforge Mystics, so he has some ways to search it up. But you're right, a lot of his combo hate is not particularly strong in this matchup. Cards like Mother of Runes, Thalia, not great threats against Elves.
No.
On the other side, because he has creatures, the plan B aspect of Elves is a little difficult here. We're actually going to see Elves play more of its combo side in this matchup.
Attacking through the ground against Maverick is one of the hardest things to do in Legacy. The deck is so well suited with Mother of Runes, Neither Reliquary, just creatures that are hard to answer in combat. So the idea that Charlie is not going to be able to win this game by, for example, just building up a board and starting to attack, which Elves can do in some matchups. He is going to have to go off either through Glimpse or Natural Order for Craterhoof Behemoth.
Yeah, Kory looks like he's on the mulligan while Charlie's keeping on 7 here. Yeah, and there are a lot of cards, at least in Kory's main deck. Like you said, he's really set up to fight creature combat. You know, you see cards like Sigarda, Host of Herons, and even Knight of the Reliquary, cards that are really strong against fair decks, but don't have that much application against Elves.
Most of this deck is a presupposition that the opponent is going to be fighting fair, and then there's a couple cards like Thalia and Gadok Teeg that are trying to cheat the unfair matchups. But Maverick is quite strong against decks like Rug Delver, various shades of Bug, decks that are going to let it do its thing.
Now, one thing that Kory has done, which is somewhat novel in Maverick, is thanks to Knight of the Reliquary, he adapted an unfair aspect to his deck. He does have 1 Dark Depths and 1 Thespian Stage in his deck, both of which he can search up with Knight.
We've seen a little bit of this addition to Maverick lists over the last couple of months with the inclusion of Thespian Stage. It's a pretty natural evolution because it gives the deck a way to win fast, which is quite often a problem.
Yeah, so Charlie on the play starts out with a turn 1 Deathrite Shaman. And Jacob, kind of recognizing the threat there, is going to go ahead and swords it. He's just trying to keep Charlie off linchpins, I guess, off mana.
Yeah, that Forest and Deathrite Shaman could mean he's playing Elves, some sort of bug deck, maybe Maverick himself, but in any event, got to get that thing off the table.
Yeah, basic Forest makes it smell like an Elf deck, but still wouldn't be sure at this point. We'll see here. Charlie, with his only second land, is Gaia's Cradle. So there's a chance that he could get wastelanded out this game. But he does have a replacement Deathrite Shaman, and now it's obvious what he's playing. So Gaia's Cradle will make Nettle Sentinel, and he'll pass back.
Jacob didn't know before he knows now. Now, his hand does allow him to go get Stoneforge Mystic here, but there's the Thespian Sage. He can go get Stoneforge Mystic, go get Umezawa's Jitte, but we're talking about a sequence over the course of 2 turns, and if Charlie has any sort of hand, that's not going to be fast enough.
Right, so Stoneforge will go ahead and get Jitte. That is the way that Jacob closes out the games. But as you see here, there's a lot going on in Charlie's hand. He has another Nettle Sentinel, he has an Elvish Visionary, and he has at least 1 more card. And if he can get Visionary, like that, and the amount of mana afforded to him by Deathrite Shaman and Gaia's Cradle could help him make a lot of plays this next turn.
Yeah, we may see, we could be setting up for something where not this turn, but next, Charlie is able to Green Sun Zenith for Craterhoof and win that way. Not the primary plan by any stretch of the imagination, but he's going to have a lot of mana to work with.
We see here Wooded Foothills, the draw for Charlie, so he actually does have a 3rd land. And we'll see where he wants to go with this. He's going to probably start out trying to save that Cradle until the last possible moment here. So he's going to start out by fetching out Bayou, likely starting on Elvish Visionary. Seeing if he can hit a card like Heritage Druid or something like that.
Yeah, and your point is very true there. He wants to use the Gaia's Cradle last, build up as many creatures in play as possible before activating that card. So you're going to see him most likely use Deathrite Shaman for mana and use his Force and his Bio here, casting some stuff to leave his Cradle until the last possible minute.
So we'll start with Elvish Visionary. It may be that he just green suns for Symbiote. Depending on it depends what he hits off the Visionary.
And Symbiote also gives him protection against the Umezawa's Jitte that Jacob just got as well. So
Right.
a lot of, it's an attractive option.
It looks like he's debating as to what to cast here. He's going to go ahead and start, looks like, on Elvish Visionary. Oh, he's going to green sun for 1.
Okay.
And he's going to go for a bigger combo. He's going for the big time. He's getting Heritage Druid here.
Just wants a lot of mana here.
Yeah, what they each offer different things. What Symbiote offers is he has a lot of mana. He has like a medium amount of mana and a card advantage engine. What Heritage Druid does is it gives him a ton of mana next turn,
Yeah.
but doesn't give him as much resiliency.
Although he doesn't really have a lot to go off with at this point. I mean, he has the Cradle and the Heritage Druid, that's a lot of mana, but his hand doesn't allow him to do very much else. He gets to cast his stuff and hope to find stuff later.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to finding Heritage Druid here. I think I might have wanted to start with the Visionary first, just on the off, like to see what it hits. It may affect the decision. We'll see. He does have a lot of mana available to him right now. He has 6 mana, more like 7 if you count the fact that he'll, like 7 or 8 if you count the fact that he can tap 3, play 2 creatures, then have a land that taps for 5.
Yep. I mean, he is set up at a point now where something like Natural Order next turn is going to be lethal.
Yeah.
And he might be able to generate enough mana to go off even with Zenith.
So 3 green. And the advantage of getting Heritage Druid here is he has double Nettle Sentinel. So he has access to a ton of mana. If he can find something like a Glimpse, or at this point, a Symbiote, he'll be off to the races.
Well, just the concern here is that he doesn't have a lot left to do with all this mana. I mean,
Right.
with the guy's Cradle in play and all the creatures in hand, it doesn't feel like mana was going to be the bottleneck this game. It was going to be, does he have enough productive stuff to do? Although, never mind.
Well, that's a good draw right now. He draws Wirewood Symbiote. All right. And now he may be able to win this turn.
Yep.
All right. So this is one of the more broken things that I can do. He goes ahead and plays the Nettle Sentinel to make 3 green. He's going to play Wirewood Symbiote down to 2 green, untapping 2 Nettle Sentinels. Remember, he hasn't even used the Gaia's Cradle yet. He has 2 green floating. And Symbiote can bounce and untap. So probably bounce the Visionary, untap the Deathrite.
Now, if I knew that Wirewood Symbiote was on the top of my deck, I would have also gotten Heritage Druid this turn.
Yeah.
You
knew
knew that
what
was
I was
what you
going to
were
say
gonna draw.
was, okay, first I would have played the Visionary, and then once I drew the Symbiote, would have been like, oh, hey, okay, yeah, Heritage Druid, sweet.
Right.
But, all right, up to 5 green mana. He did bounce the Elvish Visionary, and he's going to go ahead and recast the Visionary. It's down to 3 green. Drawing. And, he could potentially find, if he finds Green Sun or Natural Order here, he maybe, no, well, he actually hasn't, all these creatures are summoning sick, so he can't attack and win this turn, but this can be pretty brutal.
Well, the Nettle Sentinel was played earlier, so that can hit for 2.
He's going to go ahead and attack with a Nettle Sentinel that empties his mana pool, and he is done for the turn. We will get to see him untap on Jacob's turn, and on his own turn, he'll be bouncing Elvish Visionary.
Yep.
Knight of the Reliquary to play by Jacob.
Old, honest Jacob Kory, just trying to get his night going here.
Well, to be fair, this is not, because of the Thespian stage, this may not be the most honest of plays here. Jacob's play next turn, rather than making Jitte, maybe make 20/20.
Sure.
He does bounce the Visionary. And still, while he has a lot of mana and he has some number of cards, Charlie doesn't have a win yet. He just has to find a Natural Order or a Green Sun, and that'll do it. Starts with 3 green. Remember, he hasn't even used his Gaia's Cradle yet.
Yeah.
Down to 1 green, untapping Nettle Sentinels. Yeah, his mana's basically infinite here. And he draws a Green Sun.
All right, there we go.
That should work.
So the Cradle here taps for 6, 7, 8. He has a land drop is 9. Yeah.
That's not even counting. He hasn't even used Symbiote yet when counting that way.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, he's got 100. He's got it. I think he's got it with numbers to spare. So he'll start by tapping 3 to make 4. He's going to use his Wirewood Symbiote. Sure. To return the Elvish Visionary, untapping Heritage Druid. Paying 2, so he still has 4 floating. To recast, he didn't need to pay. He paid 2. He paid 4 for that Visionary.
Yeah.
So we.
And so Charlie has found Natural Order here. So if he didn't have it all rolled up before, he has it even more rolled up now.
Yeah. So he draws both the Green Sun Zenith and the Natural Order. Has access to 7, 13 mana, 14 mana. Probably can win. Just tap Gaia's Cradle, cast Craterhoof, win game.
Yeah.
Yep, so go ahead and search up Dryad. That's a Dryad Arbor there, not Basic Forest. Really confusing art from the Vault Realms.
Yeah, someone deserves at the minimum a stern talking to for that art. It looks actually like it was made to deceive someone.
Don't put that big tree on something that's not a Basic Forest. Yeah.
Well, you can tell by the artwork it's not a Basic Forest. Oh, wait, no, that's not true at all. It just looks like some trees.
Says Dryad Arbor at the top. What?
Yeah.
And making more mana. Sure. 8 mana, 7 mana. He hasn't even tapped the Cradle yet.
Yeah.
That's the best part. Okay, he'll Natural Order, sure. Had to cast Natural Order or Green Sun. It's going to untap 2 guys, sacking the Dryad Arbor. This is a very fancy way of getting out Craterhoof. You could just tap Gaia's Cradle. But all roads lead to the same place, and that place is a Craterhoof Behemoth.
And Jacob Kory is very much of the not concede school. He makes you go through it. So he's going to announce his triggers here, and Jacob's probably still not going to concede until Charlie literally pushes his creatures into the red zone. Okay. Jacob's going to get up.
How do you feel about Zenithing for a second Craterhoof?
Just letting him know who's the boss?
Yeah, we're like, no, hold on. I'm not done yet.
No.
Zenith for 7.
No, this is
Zenith
not
for 7.
No, 147 damage is not enough. It needs to be 312 or whatever. I would have liked it. But he is giving away some information that there's a second copy of Craterhoof Behemoth in the list, if that's such a thing, if he cares about that information. So Charlie is going to take down game 1 there. Pretty convincing fashion. Not surprising. Jacob had a totally fine draw that game. I mean, Source of Plowshare, Stoneforge, Mystic, neither Reliquary. You can't draw it up much better than that if you're playing Maverick, but that's just not fast enough or relevant enough interaction to stop a good draw from Elves.
You could Zenith for another Symbiote and then start bouncing the Visionary some more.
Yeah.
That'd be
a lot of routes.
Yeah.
So sideboard here, Jacob, looking to improve the matchup, has 2 copies of Choke, a Crop Rotation, which allows him to get his bullet lands, 3 copies of Thoughtseize, an Oblivion Ring, a Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, 2 copies of Zealous Persecution, a Life from the Loam, a Path to Exile, 2 copies of Aethersworn Canoness, and a Bajuka Bog. A lot of things to improve his matchup here. He can bring in the Aethersworn Canoness. He can bring in the Path to Exile as additional removal. He can bring in the 2 copies of Zealous Persecution. It's probably more for True Name Nemesis than anything else. It does tag some of Jacob's creatures as well, but there's a ton of one-touchless creatures in Charlie's deck, all of which are very relevant. He can bring in the 3 Thoughtseizes as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see him bring in the Crop Rotation too, just to speed up his ability to get to the combo. Charlie doesn't have a lot of ways to break it up. He has no flyers. He has nothing that can kill a Merit Lage token, and his only way to gain life is Deathrite Shaman activation. So going and getting a fast Thespian Sage Dark Depths is a pretty reasonable angle for Jacob. So I like the Crop Rotation to accelerate his ability to get to that.
Yeah, he wants to have the ability to win quickly, and he needs the ability to kill Elves. And his deck's not great at doing either of those. He's doing what he can to improve himself on both those fronts with the sideboard you mentioned, but it is just overall a tough matchup. On Charlie's side, there's not much he has for the matchup, to be totally honest. Cards like Duress, Cabal Therapy, even Abrupt Decay, I don't think are particularly strong here. He has a Viridian Shaman. He could board in maybe a Shaman or some Abrupt Decay as an insurance policy against GT, but this is just a good matchup for Charlie in the main deck, which is why his board doesn't apply too much.
I wouldn't mind bringing in the Progenitus because it's just, it's hard for Jacob to sub a draw mana acceleration into Natural Order for Progenitus. So I think if there's any changes made to the deck, it's going to be just bringing in that.
Yeah, if he does have that draw, it's basically down to can Jacob 2020 before Progenitus wins.
Right. And that's really hard. Because it has protection from everything.
Including Merit Lage.
Among other things. Merit Lage among others. But Jacob does have a lot of action in his sideboard here to help out the matchup, but still does not even feel favorable even with the upgrades he's making to his list. He's got his work cut out for him, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, he has, like you said before, Maverick in the main deck is not a deck with particularly good combo matchups. So the thing it does to mitigate that is it plays a lot of heavy-handed sideboard cards. And a lot of them are pretty good. However, the sideboard cards that are typical in Maverick don't interact well with what Elves is doing. You'd be better against, something like Dredge or maybe like a blue deck or something like that. He does have some hate cards, they just aren't the right ones.
Right. It's just tough because so much of the cards he has access to game one are anti-spell. That's his good anti-combo stuff, and that just doesn't matter enough against Elves. Thalia provides very little in the way of defense against someone's all-creature Guy's Cradle combo deck.
I mean, it makes the Zenith cost one more.
That is
what it does.
quite expensive.
Yeah. I mean, the Elf deck's really choked on mana.
Right.
It
is regularly the choke point is mana.
As we saw last game, Charlie never tapping his Gaia's Cradle, despite the fact that it tapped for 5+.
Yeah.
Never used it.
No need.
Nope. And one thing I've noticed, which I've liked about the evolution of Elves over the last year, is that the deck has really become less of a combo deck. As you notice there, even against a brick wall style opponent, which is what Maverick more or less is, he's not full comboing. It's not this glimpse of nature combo deck anymore. It really is just make a couple Elves, make some mana, make a big guy.
Right. The deck list feels like it's gotten a lot more refined over the last 2 years to me. Yeah. Some additional content, change the legend rule, and just the list getting better.
Yeah, the idea that it's now more just a Craterhoof deck than it is an Elf combo deck.
No more Emrakul Mirror Entity kind of shenanigans. It's all rolled into the Zenith package now.
To be fair, I thought the Mirror Entity deck was really cool. I played it a couple times with that version. Just the interactions were neat.
Yeah.
Obviously, not as powerful, not as good as what it's doing now.
That's the problem ultimately, is cool and good are two different things.
Right. So both players with turn 1 mana dorks, Noble Hierarch for Kory and Deathrite Shaman for Charlie. And Thoughtseize, this is coming out of the board. And we'll see what he's working with. His Natural Order, Quirion Ranger, Craterhoof Behemoth.
So by taking the Quirion Ranger here, I think Jacob's announcing he has a hand with a lot of removal if he feels like he can fight over this Natural Order effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, yep, Swords to Plowshares takes care of Deathrite Shaman, so Kory's kept the board relatively clean. We do see in his hand there's a Dark Depths, so he has half of his combo. And right now his board is just Noble Hierarch, Mother of Runes, and he's down on card count pretty hard.
Yeah.
And right off the top, Charlie draws a replacement Deathrite Shaman.
And that's really dangerous for Jacob because that means that next turn could be Natural Order for Progenitus, and it's not clear that Jacob really has a way to get out from that.
Yep, plays Dark Depths. And I think his last 2 cards, I don't know if he has a way around this Natural Order at the moment. Yeah, Mother of Runes is going to attack for 2.
Yeah, it's a 2
Off
spot.
Exalted, yep. That's not something you see very often with Mother of Runes.
No, it is rare.
Oh yeah, I'll swing for 2 with her. That's fine.
And Jacob's hand has a Zealous Persecution in it too, and he's the one with all the 1-toughness creatures.
Yeah, Deathrite Shaman, it's rather pesky that it just happens to be a 1/2 instead of a 1/1.
Yep.
And we'll see whether Charlie goes right for Natural Order. If he has Progenitus in, I think he will. And he's actually going to exile the Swords to Plowshares to drain Jacob for 2.
And now
Jacob starts thawing the Dark Depths. This is a surreal game at the moment.
it is. That's a slow burn right there. Although with the Guy's Cradle, I mean, it's gonna speed up here. I wonder, did Charlie not bring in Progenitus? Is now my question.
Right. Yeah, I would. That's my assumption at the moment, is that he doesn't have a Progenitus. And Jacob Kory with the great hand of board of 0-1, 1-1, 1-1, and the Zealous Persecution in hand.
Well, he can go beat downs, you know, he grows his stuff. It's a big swing.
You can swing and you can exalt, and when Charlie says no blocks, then you can Zealous Persecution.
Yeah.
Then you deal
really,
extra damage.
Really solid.
Kill
Nothing
the
wrong with
other
that.
guys, but Mirror Lage can hit for 21. There's a lot of plays. All right, another land for Charlie. He's got to watch out. Another ice counter is going to come off that Dark Depths.
Well, the way this game is shaping up, I mean, Charlie's got 2 copies of Natural Order in his hand. Does not appear that he has the ability to get Progenitus. Otherwise, I believe he would have done so last turn. His 2 Craterhoof Behemoths. That's not providing a whole lot.
I think he actually has an Abrupt Decay.
Yep.
As one of his cards. Yeah, he's got a bunch of cards that don't do anything. He doesn't have any of the Elves. He has all the other things. But he's not really under that much pressure. So he's like under this hybrid clock of Mother of Runes attacking for 2 and Jacob paying 30 mana to Dark Depths.
There's 2 different races going on right now.
Yeah, and they're both pretty awkward. Right now, Jacob, with 6 mana, is going to get to start double thawing. So it's a 4-turn clock from Merit Lage. So when Jacob goes to attack, Charlie's going to go ahead and Abrupt Decay. That's going to just get Mother of Runes.
Yeah, I'm sure Jacob is wondering what that's all about.
Yeah, I don't understand that play. Abrupt Decay can still be countered by the game rules. It just can't be countered by spells or abilities.
Yeah, Jacob's got to wonder, is he trying to just get my shields down for some reason? But he's not buying it. He's just going to go ahead and attack. He can't sit here all day anyway, so.
Yeah, he's already shown that he doesn't particularly show concern for the Mother of Runes. Yeah, he swings, puts Charlie down to 14. Like I said, he does have 6 mana on end step here. And now it looks like Charlie is gaining life with the Deathrite Shaman, so he goes up to 16. Yeah, I actually think, that Charlie made a little bit of misstep by not boarding in the Progenitus. Upkeep, Deathrite Shaman's going to get pathed. It's going to eat something else. The Thoughtseize.
Because Jacob's shown enough removal to be able to maybe make Craterhoof Behemoth a hard thing to go to, but he hasn't shown so much removal that he can keep Charlie off of Natural Order altogether, and that's the type of spot where Progenitus is really attractive.
So I want to go back to that Thoughtseize from Jacob. I want to walk through, so he didn't take the Natural Order, and is that because he's also not thinking Progenitus?
Not totally sure. Maybe.
Because, you know, like that, the turn 4 Natural Order into Progenitus even didn't seem like, it doesn't seem like Jacob had an answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, because that path, he only had 5 mana up, was only able to thaw once. So Dark Depths, Merit Lage still buried under 7 layers of ice.
He's starting to show through the cracks a little bit.
Just a little.
You can see his face.
Ooh, but more exalted might mean, with this Kasali Pride Mage, might mean that he never shows up. We'll see. And actually, because of the way that Kory tapped for that, he's not going to be able to thaw it all this turn.
I think that Jacob is not considering that to be a primary route to victory right now.
I just kind of want to see it happen. I want to see the 30 mana make Merit Lage play. But you're right. No, I do not think it is his primary route to victory. You see a swing there from Mother Runes. She exalts up to a 3/3 now.
Yeah, it's looking like a 4-turn clock. So Charlie needs a lot of help from this spot. I mean, his hand is not allowing him to do very much. He's reaching the point where he almost needs to consider doing something like Natural Order away a Dryad Arbor to try to find like an Elvish Visionary or something.
Yeah, and Jacob's gonna
Oofa.
Zealous Persecute here.
That shuts the cradle down and also means that Natural Order can't be cast this turn.
It's a double Stone Rain. See what Charlie draws here. Charlie still has 4 turns worth of attacks that he can take. He's taking 3 a turn off these Mother of Runes. I guess Kasali Pride Mage will start swinging for 4. So he has 3 turns he can take damage.
He's tapping. He's had enough. No more Mother of Runes beatdowns, please and thank you.
This game was confusing to me. I don't understand the concession either. Elves is powerful enough that, you know, it didn't seem to me like he was dead in the water for that game. Like, certainly behind, but
Well, if he has no relevant natural order targets in his deck, if both of his Craterhoofs are in his hand and he has nothing significant to get, he's in a lot of trouble. Maybe the concession's a turn early or something like that.
Yeah, he could still like glimpse of nature into a lot of one-drop elves and recover from here. You know, Jacob was playing a very fair game of hit you with the 4/4 a couple times.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I think Charlie wins it. I felt like he had outs still.
You can always imagine, you know, you find an Elvish Visionary, you find a Glimpse, you find a Symbiote, and all of a sudden you're just going off. So it was a pretty fast concession there, but
Yeah.
Charlie was in a lot of trouble there, assuming there was no Progenitus in his deck because his natural order provided nothing, and both his Craterhooves were stranded in his hand.
She'll be going to game 3. Charlie will be on the play. And I think that last game showcased some of the difficulty of this matchup from Jacob's side. You know, he had a Thoughtseize. He had, like, Mother of Runes. That's a card that's actually pretty weak in the matchup, as you saw. He had some acceleration, but really wasn't able to do anything. He kept a hand that I don't think you can mulligan, right? It has half of your fast combo. It has some disruption. It has some ramp. Like, that's about as good as you're going to get, or it's certainly something you don't want to throw away. He kept the hand, and it didn't really amount to much. It was helpful to him that Charlie's hand really backfired.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jacob's hand is it's still among the better halves of hands that he's going to generate in the matchup. And the game could have easily gone in such a way where Zealous Persecution was an ace. It ended up not being very good because Charlie never found enough one-time his elves to really do anything. But his hand was solid. A faster clock, especially a Stoneforge Mystic, is really what Jacob is looking for here because
Right.
Umezawa's Jitte is the easiest path to victory.
Yeah, a Stoneforge Mystic, a Knight of the Reliquary. He would like one of those to win the game.
Yeah, and then Disruption to Overload, just creature removal, some discard. That's the recipe he's looking for here.
Yeah, I guess he did have all the pieces except for the finisher. He did have the disruption, he had the acceleration, he didn't have a finisher.
Yep. And I wonder if Charlie has brought in the Abrupt Decay to fight over Umezawa's Jitte specifically, or if he just brings it in because Jacob has a plethora of targets.
Yeah, I don't know. Abrupt Decay doesn't seem terrible here. There are cards you'd want to fight over, like, fighting over Jitte seems fine to me.
Mm-hmm.
It depends what he's boarding out. He does have 3 Abrupt Decays. I don't know if I'd want all 3 of them here. And if you want to fight, yeah, so that seems fine. I do think he still wants the Progenitus in, as we saw. You know, against a deck that's thought seizing you, one of the best things you can do is just natural order into Progenitus.
Yeah. And there's no real out to that in the Maverick deck. You know, you're not worried about something like Liliana the Veil getting you or anything. It's just, you know, a random Mazavith doesn't stop it. There's not really much in the way of answers to that sort of threat out of Elves. Jacob can basically try to race, cobble together his own combo, but it's hard. And it requires so little setup, too. I mean, it's just turn 1 mana creature, turn 2 creature, and you're off to the races.
I mean, that's the advantage of natural order, right? It's basically a 1-card combo. It's 2 green for Progenitus, and it's unlikely the Elves deck will not have something to sacrifice. It can get a creature off as little as a fetch land.
Back in more honest times for Legacy about 3 or 4 years ago, natural order for Progenitus was the preferred way that a lot of control decks killed. That was the whole point of the deck, was to win that way.
Yeah, we talked about Grand Prix Province, ones that James Rinkovich won, and that was with a natural order Bant deck. It was more or less a control deck that this was their finisher. It was a 4-mana 10/10. Of course, now, you know, the power to mana cost ratio just probably isn't high enough on natural order for Progenitus, you know.
Well, it comes with
You need something bigger for 4 mana.
Now, Progenitus comes with some insurance in that it's fairly hard to kill in most circumstances, so it's not just a 4-mana 10/10.
Yeah. He's not Emrakul, though. That's, like, as far as the largest, baddest monster out, that, you know, Emrakul and Gristlebrand have certainly, like, to a point started to outclass a Progenitus. Like,
They just do different.
They're different.
They do different things, and the requirement for getting Progenitus into play is a lot lower because it's a green creature.
Right. You see Jacob down to 6 cards. Right now, I believe Elves is, I think, the only major deck that's playing the natural order combo right now. We don't see much natural order Bant or natural order Rug at the moment.
Yeah, it's, you know, at any Legacy event, you're going to see a little bit going on, but it's definitely a rarity.
Yeah. So Jacob down to 6, Charlie on the play here. We are on game 3. Both players at 3-1. Remember, Charlie was our standard open champion, winning this morning in 3 games over Chris Van Meter.
Jacob's hand has some lands and a Stoneforge missing, so I'd be surprised if he mulliganed this one.
I see Scavenging Ooze. I don't know if he has the second land yet.
Well, looks like it appears to be a fetch land in Savannah. It just had nothing to do on turn 1, and it's a little bit on the slow side, so Jacob has to worry about just getting killed.
Well, the first turn draw was pretty good for Jacob there. It was Deathrite Shaman.
Oh boy.
A Glimpse of Nature. We haven't seen a Glimpse hand yet. I'm not sure if we're going to see one yet. Charlie may wait one more turn before doing it. He's going to go with Wirewood Symbiote, Windswept Heath.
I mean, his hand contains both Glimpse and Cradle.
Yeah, I don't know if he has many more little guys. Granted, he has Wirewood Symbiote, so he doesn't need too many. Jacob, on the other hand, might be setting up for a turn 3 Stoneforge, a turn 3 GT attack.
Well, the Symbiote complicates that too. That's going to be the first order of business is Jacob getting that off the table. From there, it gets a lot easier.
Now, see what Jacob does. It looks like he is paying a 3-mana spell.
I think he's just trying to shortcut here.
Okay.
Because he's going to just be casting Stoneforge Mystic this turn.
Well, he's exiling a land, which makes me think maybe he's... Right, he wouldn't want to exile a land if he didn't have to.
Sure.
He would just be paying for it with his basics. He's going to go ahead and Green Sun for 2 here, for what I believe is going to be Gaddock Teague.
Okay.
That certainly will stop a natural order in Charlie's hand. Yep. The Angry Kithkin there. Gaddock Teague. So yeah, right now, stops Charlie from playing non-creature spells. It's not a full trump in this matchup, but it does turn off both Natural Order and Green Sun Zenith.
It's a piece of the puzzle. It's not going to win the game outright, but it is a good start. Now, the problem for Jacob here is that, Charlie has both Gaia's Cradle and Glimpse of Nature in his hand. So he may be able to win kind of manual style here by just going off and hard casting a Craterhoof.
Yeah, you saw on end step there, Charlie did go ahead and get Dryad Arbor. That was so to up his creature count for this incoming Gaia's Cradle. And so we see Cradle for the turn, and I think we're going to be off. We're going to start out here on Glimpse of Nature. There's only one creature in Charlie's hand at the moment, but that's going to get bigger quick. So Glimpse Nature, all his creatures will draw a card. He taps Dryad Arbor for Deathrite Shaman. That draws a second Glimpse. And I'm not sure it's a double Glimpse turn he could brick. It probably is, actually.
We've gotten this far, right? And there's no setup. There's no guarantee that next turn's going to be any easier.
Right. I mean, he only has like one more mat. Like, he's running out of Elves is the issue right now. But he can bounce an elf with a symbiote and recast it, and that's his last creature. So if he burns the Glimpse here and doesn't hit a creature in the top 2, he'll fizzle out. That said, I still think he wants to go for this play because if there's so much upside, right?
And he fizzles out next turn anyway if there's no creature in his top 2. He draws for his turn, he glimpses, plays 1 creature.
Right.
So it's essentially the same deal. I guess he could try to set up Symbiote over 2 turns to get 2 elves back to his hand, but the upside here, like you mentioned, it just feels huge.
Yeah, and he's going to go ahead and untap the Dryad Arbor to bounce the Deathrite Shaman. I think if he wants to go for the extra Glimpse, he should have tapped Cradle first there.
Yeah, he's going to
cost himself a mana.
Yeah, he's going to be down a mana because he has to commit that Cradle tap to generate enough mana to begin with.
Right, so he's going to play second Glimpse here. Now to make that mana, well, he can use Quirion to do the tap. So
sure.
Still, it's going to bounce Bayou to untap Dryad Arbor. So maybe he's not costing himself mana at the moment. Yeah, taps Dryad Arbor for Deathrite Shaman. That'll be 2 draws now off Glimpse. Yeah, he has not used the Cradle yet. Draws, and the Heritage Root, a huge draw there. He should be able to, it's looking more and more like he'll be able to just draw his deck.
Yes, that Heritage Druid is a big step here.
And 4 green. And here we go. He needs to keep hitting elves, but down to 3 green Heritage Druid, 2 draws. Draws a land, and he's going to whiff. No, he hits another Heritage Druid.
Yeah. All Jacob can really do here is cross his fingers here and hope that at some point Charlie just misses. 2 lands in a row here. And there's 2 more Elves, so now the ball's really rolling here.
Yeah. And I believe he's at 2 mana floating. He tapped out for the first Deathrite Shaman, then he tapped the guy's Cradle for 4. It was the 3 creatures and the Cradle. I think he had to pay for that first Heritage Druid.
Yeah.
So she should be at 2 mana floating, not 3. There we go, it is corrected. That said, I don't think he's fizzling. I don't know how much this matters. Heritage Druid is one heck of a card. Down to 1, he's gonna go ahead and make Wirewood Symbiote. 2 draws. Yeah, and this should be more than enough. His goal here is to just keep playing creatures and net mana up until the point where he can cast a very large Craterhoof. Now, it's going to have to be pretty large because the only creatures in play without Summoning Sickness are Wirewood Symbiote and Quirion.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to give them, like, you know, at least, what, with a defense of 2, they're going to both at least have +10/+10.
But that's not going to be hard here.
No. Not really. So up to 4 with Heritage Druid, down to 3 for Deathrite Shaman, draws 2. We see just some more 1-mana creatures, another pair of them actually. And at this point, the creatures are paying for themselves. Every creature's free, and once he starts hitting Nettle Sentinels, that's when he's going to start netting mana.
Yeah.
So that's how he's going to build up to the Craterhoof Behemoth mana.
That's the last piece of the puzzle here. He doesn't have any Nettle Sentinels yet, but it feels like it's only a matter of time before he starts finding them.
So he's not netting mana right now. He's just going through his cards.
Yep.
And we see here, so Birchlore Rangers, drawing 2. Tapping 3 more. Those are, he has 3 more Elves. That'll go up to 5 green.
And there's no rush to tap these Elves unless he's using the 5 mana for something. I mean, he still has 2 floating. He can cast 2 more Elves, try to get a little more information.
Right. At 5 green. Just keeps making 1-drops. Yeah, we'll see. This is going through the motions. The odds that he doesn't hit here are very low. See him drawing 2 more cards. 2 ones he can't cast, both turned off by Gaddock Teagues. That was a little bit of a miss. Natural Order and a Green Sun Zenith. Down to 3. Remember, all the 1-mana Elves are free. Basically, every Elf is discounted by 1 thanks to Heritage Druid. Draws Heritage Druid and a land. Still no Nettle Sentinels.
Well, they're all actually free, assuming that he's able to play 3.
Yes. Draws 2 there. That's going to be a Visionary and another Elf. Visionary actually does make him lose a mana, which is still fine.
Yeah.
Was back up to 5. So yeah, we saw he was at 5, then he played 3 Elves, went down to 2, and is back at 5 again. Glimpse of Nature is not optional, so if he goes too long without finding Nettle Sentinels, he's going to have to start putting a premium on efficiency here.
Yeah, the way that this deck can sometimes mitigate that set of circumstances is by, if you have enough Zeniths left over equal to the number of Glimpses you played, you can start putting Zeniths back in your deck, casting creatures, redrawing the Zeniths, casting the Zeniths for 0, and rinsing and repeating. Once you're at the stage where you're generating mana, now Charlie does not have access to that line currently because the Gaddock Teague in play, but it is a way where the deck can get out of getting decked. In circumstances where it would otherwise get decked, no longer get decked.
He's drawing more cards. So he did play 2 Visionaries there. That now he's run out of mana. That cost him some mana, just as like a technique thing of when comboing with Elves. When you have a double Glimpse going, you want to play all your 1-mana Elves usually before any of your 2-mana Elves, because they are all free rolls.
Yeah, the thing is, until he finds the Nettle Sentinels, he's at some risk of just, as unlikely as it is, hitting a dry run of cards and running out of Elves. So he wants to leave himself as much mana left over as possible.
Yeah, mana right now is the choke, so he wants to be really conservative with it. You want to cycle all the Elves for free. So right now he's at 3 mana, down to 2 to play Wirewood Symbiote. Still can't find Nettle Sentinels. He's found, I think, all his green Sun Zeniths.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, he's drawn well over half of his deck at this point.
Yes. And hand chock full of cards. I mean, and to be fair, each of these Wirewood Symbiotes also are free because they untap an elf.
Yes.
They're actually better than elves for the most part. All right, one more elf, 2 more cards, still no Nettle Sentinels. He's not gonna be able to build up to the Craterhoof this turn without it. And he does need to make sure that he saves one of these Wirewood Symbiotes. It'll make it easier for him, I think, if he saves it to untap the non-summoning sick, what was it, Quirion Ranger?
Yeah.
But at this point, he may even have 20 creatures by the time, he'll have 20 creatures by the time he plays Craterhoof, so it shouldn't matter. He's out of mana to play Heritage Druid. Finding another Craterhoof. And a Llanowar Elves.
A classic.
This is getting ridiculous. He still has the Nettle Sentinels in, I would hope.
It'd be weird to
That'd be
sideboard them
weird.
out.
Sometimes you can side out a card like Heritage Druid. I don't think you ever touched Nettle Sentinel.
Now, the question is Charlie going to try to fully go off this turn? That would be the ideal. Or does he just say, okay, pass, and next turn I'll just cradle and Craterhoof you?
Yeah, there is that, I mean, even if he passes here, I don't think, I mean, worst case scenario is that Jacob has Zealous Persecution?
Which is pretty bad.
Does it kill everything? It's like almost everything, isn't it? He doesn't play like one Elvish Archdruid. No, I would kill that's okay. Zealous Persecution's a card, and he knows that Jacob plays it, so he probably wants to try to full combo this turn. It would be how many for one?
Well, it's hard to quantify in that respect because all these things were free to begin with, so.
Yeah. It would certainly kill a lot of things.
So it looks like Charlie's looking at the symbiote right now, trying to figure out if he wants to activate it.
He's going to go ahead and untap. It doesn't really matter what he untaps and bounces. I suppose bouncing Quirion Rangers are the best because then he can recast them, and bouncing used Quirion Rangers are the best bounces.
That's the maximum efficiency.
So he's going to use up all his symbiotes. He still has one in hand. Remember, one of those symbiotes is not summoning sick, and one Quirion Ranger is not summoning sick.
So if we can just cast the Craterhoof Behemoth, that's certainly lethal. Just one creature at this point is definitely getting it done. At this point, it seems like even just Craterhoof by itself is going to get the job done.
Yes. Yeah, Craterhoof actually just by itself swings lethal. He just needs to get to 7 mana somehow. Which is, I mean, the somehow is Nettle Sentinel.
Right. Looks like we're about ready to proceed here.
All right, back to the elf making process. 3 green. Last symbiote, draw 2. Down to 2. Can we get a Nettle Sentinel? Well, another glimpse and a 4. Nope, not yet. He's getting out of
I mean, did they get sided out? At this point,
I mean, if he sided it out, then he can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
There's no point.
Yeah, I mean, he has to just stop and risk it. That's what happens from here.
Yeah, you can't really side out Nettle Sentinel in this matchup. Ever. I don't know, you just like don't ever side out Nettle Sentinel. I think he's stopping.
Yeah, maybe he's just looking to enter discard, hoping to fade the Zealous Persecution and winning next turn with Craterhoof.
Yeah, it seems like my guess is okay, so how many cards left in his deck? He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
It's hard to figure out based on just the size.
He has 18 cards in play and 3 in his yard and at least 20 cards in hand, which that leaves him with under 20 cards in his deck. The odds that all 4 Nettle Sentinels are in there are low enough that I would suspect his opponent that he's boarded out his Nettle Sentinels.
So, okay, Jacob's got a shot here. I mean, he's moving to discard here, so Zealous Persecution is live.
Does he hit it?
It is a wasteland.
No. Well, he can kill, he has some GT. He could make it You could find GT and then pass. You know, that's good, right?
Under
All right.
normal circumstances, that's fine. I think that ship has sailed.
GT is the trump card in the matchup, right? I mean, it's...
Well, once we've gotten to this point, there are no longer trump cards in the matchup. Zealous Persecution.
Zealous. You need a sweeper. I don't think he hit it. The best part of your Jacob is you had to sit there for 15 minutes knowing that you were just on a one-outer.
Yeah.
You're like, well, even, you know, like knowing that your opponent's probably not fizzling, but even if he does, you probably can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you just have to play out the string and just
You just
pray.
have to watch. This is the situation where if I'm playing on Moto, I just like hit F6 and go make a sandwich.
Yeah.
And I come back, I'm like, oh, am I dead?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not dead. All right. Okay, sure.
Magic Online will tell me if I'm dead or not.
Yeah, it'll let me know. Or I'll just like start playing a different computer game in the background to like, you know, just do something else. It's okay, it's on your opponent's clock, you know.
Yeah.
No penalty. Scrib Ranger. Tether Shaman exiles a land.
Ooh, Jacob up to his own fancy tricks. Look at this. 2 mana.
All right. He's getting on. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
He's not the
He's
Charlie's not the only one who can untap his things.
Not the only combo player at this table. Thank you very much.
Stoneforge Mystic. I mean, so what if you're Kory? You're going to say, well, if my opponent didn't draw any Craterhoofs, he gets GT. To be fair, I'm not even sure if Charlie just had Elvish Archdruid in his deck,
Yeah.
Kory would be dead.
Yeah, we'll just get beaten to
Archdruid
death.
Swing. Yeah, that would be lethal. I actually am wondering whether Swing, untap Swing is also lethal. It's like pretty close.
It's close. The Jitte complicates things.
It's the green empty the Warrens here.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. It's a lot of things he has in play. Now, is there a Gaia's, so he wastelanded the Gaia's Cradle. So we're not sure whether or not Charlie has another, okay, Charlie does have another Cradle. Blast. And there's Craterhoof, and oh, this is gonna be a lot of damage.
What were the odds he had it?
So let's see, I believe there were 15 creatures in play, all of which were 1/1s. So each of those becomes 16. So 16 squared, that's gonna be 256 trampling damage. Plus 21, so it's a 2 swing for 277 trampling damage. That is more than enough.
Just enough to take it down. Charlie Rinehart 2-1 with Elves.